Now. Okay. Mazel tov, everybody. We have the schus of learning to contribute brachas to Joni Davidovich, who got married today. Joni Pollock, I should say, maybe. I don't know. Joni and Moshe, who got married today. And may they build a binyan adei ad, and may we be able to share many smachot together, many more smachot together in person, and with lots and lots of joy and hugs and kisses and all real life things. So tonight's shir is Parshas Terumah, and just I don't know, might be a little bit like a shorter one, but we'll see. I think that two very, very famous psukim in this week's parsha. Sorry, I'm like a little bit technically out of it. Okay, now we're starting. There are two very, very famous psukim in this week's parsha. I'm going to share the screen so that you can see what I'm talking about. Okay, the first one is the very first pasuk of the parsha, actually the second pasuk, but the first pasuk is Vaydaber Hashem el Moshe lemor, right? Hashem spoke to Moshe saying, Daber el bnei Yisrael, speak to bnei Yisrael, and tell them, Vayikchu li truma, take for me a truma, a gift, let's say, for right now. Me'ez kol ish asher yidbenu libo, tikchu et trumatai. You shall accept gifts for me from every person whose heart so moves him. So this is a very, very famous parsha. I actually think we did a share about it a couple of years ago. It's famous because really for a number of reasons, but essentially the main issue with this pasuk is that it's not worded in the normal way. Okay, the whole idea is that these are going to be the donations for the Mishkan, for the building of the Mishkan. The whole parsha is about the different vessels that are going to be in the Mishkan, the menorah and the shulchan and the aron and the kruvim, and then also about the covering of the walls and the actual structure of the Mishkan. So it's a very, very detailed parsha, and there's a lot of depth, there's a lot of meaning, obviously, in all the psukim, but the part of the whole goal is that Bnei Israel are going to be united in this effort to build something holy, something that will like bring a focus or like a central physical meeting place, or some kind of like a physical but kind of symbolic, a physical structure that is symbolic of what they're trying to do, which is serve Hashem. And we know that as they don't know yet, but we know that when they are going to be traveling around the Midbar for 40 years, that the Mishkan is going to be the centerpiece of everything, of all their travels. They're all going to, set up around it, and every single time that they have to move, they're going to break apart the Mishkan, and then every time they set up in a new place, the first thing that they have to do is set up the Mishkan again. And this is going to be the very first time that they're going to sort of work together, towards something. And the whole idea is that it starts with this giving. It starts with this truma. And Rashi says, not the ones that I brought here for you, but a longer Rashi. He says actually that the word truma is repeated. You can see here, vayikuli truma, tikhu et trumati, and then actually in the next in the next pasuk, the word truma is used again. So there are 3 trumot that are going to be given, and Rashi brings down, it's a little bit more, not really where we're going tonight, but basically there's like this yearly sum that they have to give. There's also like this once in a lifetime, once ever kind of giving. And then there's also like this, the machatzisa shekel. So, but all of it is going to be sort of dependent on Am Yisrael's heart moving them. Okay, that's like how the pasuk says right here, right? How should they give the truma? Me'es kol ish asher yidbenu libo. So let's see what Rashi says. Rashi says vayiklu li truma, here down here. This is the first thing. He explains, what does it mean? Li lishmi, meaning for me. They're taking for me a donation. So what I was going to say before is that the wording of the pasuk is a little bit weird, because the normal thing to say would be not vayiklu, but it should really say vayitnu, right? They should give me a truma, not they should take for me a truma. It's like a funny wording. And there's a lot of different mefarshim. There's, there's one, I think we did a couple of years ago, the one idea of like that these were shluchim, messengers that came around, and that this mitzvah is sort of worded towards them, that they should be the ones to take the truma from the people, and therefore that's why it says take for me and not give me. Okay, but we're going to go in a more spiritual and heartfelt kind of direction, and not such obviously pshat, that's a great way of understanding it, but there's obviously more depth here than that we're going to try to explore tonight. Okay, so Rashi says vayiklu li truma means for me it should be dedicated to my name. And then he says truma, because also that's an unusual word. What does truma mean? He says hafrasha. So it's a portion or a separation, something that's set aside. Yafrishu li mimamonam. You trying to say that one 5 times fast? Mimamonam nidava. Okay, they should give for me. They should set aside some of their money, right? That's what mamonam means, as a nidava. So what's a nidava? We who live in Israel, we know this word very well, right? Nedivut or hitnadvut, right? These are different ways of saying volunteering. So the essence, the flavor of this is that it should come as a voluntary, I want to give, okay? Not like when you tell your child, share with her sibling, or and they're like, I don't, fine, like that, right? It should be, and it shouldn't be like you having to take it from them, right? Which is why I don't love that explanation of like that it's directed towards the messengers that they should take. It's really a person taking from their own, let's say they have a handful of jelly beans, right? So then they're taking some of the jelly beans and they're giving it. And the vayikhu is that separating out some of what they have. And then there's the vayitnu, okay? But really the whole, like the kunz of it, I don't know, what's more important when you have a child who doesn't really want to share, right? So it could be that they don't want to share because it's that sibling and they're angry with that sibling right now, really. But more often it's because they don't want to give of their jelly beans. It's the thing that they're attached to. Not that they don't want to give it to that person in particular, but that they don't want to give anything. It doesn't matter who it is, right? This is mine, this is mine. If I can't, I actually heard this amazing story the other day. Wait, I'm going to stop share for 1 second. I heard this great Torah the other day, a story of a, I think it was Yossi Jacobson, Rabbi Y.Y. Jacobson, who told it, that it's like a story, but a mashal also, that there's like a father and a son, and the older, okay, so the father's quite old, and the son is, already a grandfather, let's say, okay, but they're very, very poor, and they only have one coat, and they're living in this little house together, in Poland somewhere, right, in Eastern Europe, and it's freezing. And the son is out chopping wood and basically trying to, have some money to feed the family. And the father is sitting at home, but it's freezing and they only have one coat. So they're fighting about it. My coat, I need it more because I'm going outside to chop the wood and it's freezing outside. And then the father's like, no, I need the coat because I'm freezing and it's freezing inside and we don't have a fire going and it's I'm not active. I'm just sitting here and I'm freezing. And they're like arguing about it. Who should get the coat? And let's go to the Rav. Fine. Let's go to the Rav. They go to the Rav and each one presents, his argument. I need the coat because I'm, outside, and I need the coat because I'm inside, but I'm not moving and I'm older. And the Rav says, very difficult decision, but he paskins that the son should have the coat because he's, keeping both of them alive with his work, and therefore he needs the coat in order to go out to work. So the son, puts on the coat and they start walking home, and and then he's looking at his father, and the father's like, shivering as he's walking, and his teeth are chattering, and the son's like, oh, what am I doing? I'm gonna take the coat from my father? Like, this is crazy. My father needs the coat. So, so he takes off the coat and he gives it to the father, and the father's like, what are you doing? The rabbi just told you that, the Rav just told you that you should have the coat. You're, you need it. And the son's like, no. Tate, you have to have the coat, so they go home. And the son goes out to work, and the father's like, how could I let my son go out to work without the coat? He's the one keeping me alive. The only reason I have food on the table is because my son's going out to work. And, how could he work efficiently? How could I let him go to work in this freezing weather without the coat? And so he tries to give the son, back the coat. And the son's like, no, father, you have to have the coat. You're old. Kibud av, you have to have the coat. Now, so now they're having the same fight, except that they're fighting with each other to try to give the other one the coat. They go back to the Rav. So they go back to the Rav, and this time they present their arguments, and each one is arguing why the other one needs to have the coat. And the Rav, all of a sudden, he's like, wait a second. And he goes to his closet, and he takes out a coat, and he says, you know what? This is an extra coat. Why don't you both take it? And then you'll have two coats. Fabulous. It's a wonderful solution, right? But the son turns to the Rav and he says, why didn't you give us this coat before? And the Rav says, do you know what? When you were both arguing with each other, it's my coat, it's my coat, it's my coat, it's my coat. So I didn't even think about the coat that I have in the closet. But it's probably because, subconsciously, I was also like, no, mine. I have to hold on to mine, whatever's mine. When you both opened up your hearts to each other and you said, he needs it. No, he needs it. And, your open-heartedness towards each other caused me to open up my heart also. And that's what caused me to remember that I have a coat hanging in the closet. So when we're, it happens often with a child, it's not really about who the child is supposed to give to. It's about the giving at all, right? It's just, we get into this mode of like scarcity. I don't have enough. There's not enough to go around. If I give if I have only 5 jelly beans, then, that's only 5 jelly beans. But, in an ideal world, right, we would all think like, wow, I have 5 jelly beans. That's 4 people that I could share with, and then we would each have 1 jelly bean, or, so we don't know, we don't naturally go there. But part of what we know is happening in the Torah, especially in these parshiot that happen in the early period of Am Yisrael forming, is that Hashem is really trying to give us lessons on how to be the people that he, envisions us to be. So this is part of what we're supposed to be doing. Vayikhu li Terumah is, take of your things and give, because that's what generous people do. That's what good people do. Those are the midos that we're trying to develop as Am Yisrael. And the hard part about that is the vayikhu, right? The hardest part about it is the opening up my mind that I can, open up my hand, right? And that I can take of what I'm thinking of as mine and give it. to someone else. That's the hard part. So that's how the pasuk opens. That's how the parsha opens. So we'll go back to the source sheet. Okay, and then the last bit, the last Rashi, Yidbenu libo, right? That it should be like as the person's heart moves them to. It's like the same shoresh, nadav, yidbenu. It's like it's very close in there, like to give voluntarily. Lashon nedava, language of volunteering. Vehu lashon ratzon tov. Now that's a really important Rashi. Okay, it's a language of goodwill, an expression of not just goodwill, like like in America, the organization, the tzedakah organization, but ratzon tov, meaning a will to do good. Okay. So let's keep on going. Now I'm gonna just do this very quickly, only because it shows up. We're gonna do a sfas emes, and this pasuk shows up at the end, but it's a very famous pasuk. You're all familiar with it. This is V'asuli mikdash v'shachanti b'tocham, right? The make for me a sanctuary. This is the whole idea of this parsha, next parsha, right? Let them make me a sanctuary. V'shachanti b'tocham. Famously, it doesn't say v'shachanti b'tocha, right? That I will dwell in it. It says b'tocham, I will dwell among them or in them. Okay, so and that's exactly what we're trying to do here, right? How do we create ourselves? How do we grow ourselves into those people in whom Hashem will dwell, in whom Hashem will want to dwell? So the sfas emes gives us a beautiful, very tachlis dika lesson this week. Okay, so vayiklu li truma, and I'm happy to send this out afterwards. I just forgot to beforehand. Baruch atah Adonai l'melech haMashiach kol miyabi baro. Thank you. Okay. Vayiklu li truma. Okay, take from me a truma. Okay. Also, very important in the sfas emes, we're going to talk about this language of truma. Means it's really defined, like Rashi said, as a portion. Okay, but there's no getting around. In Hebrew we always look at the shoresh, right? And the shoresh of truma is like harema, lifting, right? Romema, romemu, like all these different words that have to do with raising up or lifting up. Okay, so the sfas emes is going to go into that and kind of build on that idea. Okay, so v'kasheh dehavale l'meimar. It's hard to understand why the Chumash doesn't say, why the Torah doesn't say yitnu, right? Which is what we said before, that grammatically speaking, really the word should be, they should give me, right? But it says vayiklu li. The Perush Rashi, like we read up here, Zichrona livracha, right? Yafrishu li mimamonam nedava. That just like we said, that they should separate from me a portion as a contribution, okay, a monetary contribution, but again, voluntary. V'nir'eh shezeh habachina sheporesh adam davar mishalo umavdilo laHashem yisbarach. And it seems that this is the level, or this is the aspect, let's say, where when a person poresh adam, like a person like hafrasha, separates davar mishalo, an item that belongs to him, umavdilo laHashem yisbarach, and dedicates it, let's say, right? Havdalah, we say, is separation, but it's also like it's like this idea of setting aside something for something else. Okay, so umavdilo laHashem yisbarach, like that it's being separated out for Hashem. So, but there's more to this sentence, right? So that aspect, the idea that a person is taking something of his and setting it aside for Hashem, chashuv lefanav yoter miguf hanetina. This is why, this is the line that got my heart, okay? That it's more important to Hashem, it's more meaningful, more significant to Hashem that a person does that action, that taking something of mine and dedicating it to Hashem, much more than what is actually set aside, right? So we talk about this with like the korbanot, and we talk about it with the bikurim, and we talk about it. Obviously, there's a difference between a very, very wealthy person's korban and a very poor person's korban, and yet throughout all of Torah and Gemara, there's very much a discussion about that Hashem really doesn't care. He doesn't care more, or it doesn't delight him more. He doesn't prefer the ox of the wealthy man to the dove of the poor man, or even the flour offering of the very poor person. Bless you, it's a he doesn't prefer it. He just wants each person to give what, or to let's say that for now, to give the appropriate amount for them. Right. So we have all these stories about that it doesn't matter to Hashem. It's, as long as it's appropriate to that person, and that person, it's like the best that person can give, or it's the appropriate amount. If it's 1/25th, so 1/25th of $1 is 25 cents, but 1/25th of $1 million is, I don't even know, no, 250,000, right? Is that right? So that's a big deal. Right? I shouldn't even use numbers. But the whole idea is that for us, we're like, well, come on, right? Like, as if 25 cents means as much to you as $250,000. But Hashem says, no, that's exactly the point. If a person has $1, how much more, actually, in a way, is it significant that they're taking 25 cents of $1 and giving it to the Beis Hamikdash, to the Mishkan, to Hashem, whatever it is, whatever it is. How significant is that when that's all that person has? So Hashem is what the Sfas Emes is really saying here is that just that action, that I am going to give some of what I have to Hashem, that's really what matters to Hashem. And what actually is given is less important to him. And why? Because really everything belongs to Hashem anyway, right? That pasuk is down here from Chagai, right? Li hakesef v'li hazahav neim. Oops, sorry, I should change that wording. The Yud Kei Vav Kei. I need to put that on the screen here, but okay. Neum Hashem Tzvaos. Silver is mine and gold is mine, right? Everything belongs to Hashem. I remember one time, I think last year, we were talking about Hashem Mula'aretz Mulo'ah, right? Like everything belongs to Hashem. So really, when I say like, here Hashem, take this book, it's kind of like, well, it's mine anyway, right? Like, did you ever give money to your kids and then they like go and buy you a present with that money, And you're like, so on one hand, it's like, well, I paid for my own present, but then on the other hand, when they have their like little chubby little hands on it, and they're giving it to you, it's like the sweetest thing in the world, right? And that's exactly what what Hashem is saying here, what the Sfas Emes is saying here about Hashem's like what we understand is pleasing to Hashem. Is that that I took that money that he gave me and I bought him a big red heart card with it, or whatever it is. Just like your kids take money from you and then they give you this present, but it's like with all their love and all their devotion, and it's like the sweetest thing in the world. Okay. ואותו הנדיבות בשעה מעשה האדם להניח חפציו בעבור השם יתברך הוא הלקיחה. Okay, so that nedivut, that voluntary action, right? The physical doing where a person lahaniach chafetzav, like takes his belonging and sort of hands it over, or sets it aside to Hashem. That's the lakicha. That's the That's the taking. Okay. Now, the Sfas Emes doesn't say this, but lekach is like a lesson, right? So, I mean, it means honey cake, right? But like, it also means a lesson. So I remember when I was in Ulpan, my teacher was saying like, ma lekach, and I was like, why is he talking about a honey cake? And but it means the lesson, right? So I think there's like a little play on words here that we can kind of find, and I hope the Rebbe Sfas Emes wants us to find this, that hu halekicha, like that's the lesson that we learn. Okay, that's the taking, but it's also like we should take that to heart. Okay, that the whole idea is that a person is taking something of theirs and giving it over to Hashem, dedicating it to Hashem. Because through the taking of that thing, that item gets raised to Hashem. Now, when I was reading this, the main thing that came to my mind was hafrashat challah. That when we take challah, it basically, we literally hold it up when we say like harei ze challah, right? So there's like a physical action that goes along with the spiritual effect that this is having, that we're physically taking like, a portion of our bread, which, in the olden days, right, was sustaining a family. That's what they mostly lived on, not necessarily challah for Shabbos, but like you have to take challah for any bread that you make. So when they were making bread on a daily basis for just eating, for living, so then to take a portion of it, and obviously it's supposed to be given to the Kohanim, but now we have to get rid of it somehow because it can't be eaten by any of us. But the whole idea is that we're taking a portion of it and we're handing it over to Hashem. And there's an elevation that goes on, because what happens then if we don't take that part out in the challah, for example, then it's actually not kosher, right? It's actually like it's unusable to us. So when we take the challah out, when we take that piece out, not only do we like raise the piece, because theoretically it's, or Bezrat Hashem, when the Beis HaMikdash is rebuilt, this week, we're going to bring that piece of that portion to the Beis HaMikdash, and the Kohanim are going to eat it. But the rest of the dough in the bowl gets elevated because it becomes kosher, right? It becomes something pure and something holy in a way, because now it's kosher food that we can make a bracha over and eat, so that we can, learn Torah, take care of our children, live. Okay. So that taking actually elevates the whole thing to becoming something holy. V'nikra truma ki mi ala shamayim, and it's called a truma. Like I said before, this lashon of raising up, because, and he quotes here from this from Mishlei. Okay, this is the pasuk from Mishlei. Mi ala shamayim, who has ascended heaven, v'yered and come down. Mi asaf ruach bechafnav, mi tzarar mayim besimla. Who has gathered up the wind in the hollow of his hand? Who has wrapped the waters in his garment? Mi hekim kol afsei aretz, who has established all the extremities of the earth? Ma shmo u'ma shem bno ki teda. What is his name, or his son's name? Ki teda, or that we should know, or if you know it, or that I should know it, like that. And it's a little bit of a confusing pasuk, but basically it's talking about. The beginning is talking about Moshe Rabbeinu, mi ala shamayim v'yered, who, that's who went up to heaven and came down. But then the rest of it is really talking about Hashem, and there's this kind of back and forth. So I actually found this beautiful quote here from the Sefer Shar HaEmunah v'Yisod HaChasidut, and I'm just going to read it in English because I think it actually will shed light on the rest of the pasuk. Okay. No slave could ever escape from Egypt, because Egypt was filled with all the most powerful of worldly delights. to the point where it was more comfortable to be a slave in Egypt than a lord in another country. In this way, he, meaning Paro, ruled over their minds and intellect. For this reason, he asserted that there was no way they could arouse the root of their souls in order to pray to God for deliverance. Right? This is when Paro didn't believe that Am Yisrael were going to be free. He didn't believe that they could have that kind of connection. He didn't believe that they could daven to Hashem in the way that would enable, that would, open up Hashem's heart to save us. And as a result, God's compassion would not be aroused to redeem them. To this, the Zohar responds, he did not see the other connection, the connection of faith, which rules over all. All of the connection between Bnei Israel and Hashem is through prayer and divine service, right? He was, meaning when we look at the world in like a physical way, and we say that our lives are based on how much money we have, or, the kind of clothes that we wear, or, what kind of car we drive, or all these things, or like they were in Mitzrayim. So, are we going to be in Mitzrayim, or are we going to be, in a different place? So when our life is like only based on the physicality of life, then we lose out on this whole other side of connection, right? Now, obviously, I'm speaking to people who are here learning Torah, so Baruch Hashem, we're all looking for that other side, right? But those people in the world that don't understand that there's a deeper connection than just, or there's a deeper way to look at your life rather than just the physical surroundings and the physical belongings that you have, gathered up. So that person doesn't understand taking some of it and handing it over to Hashem, right? That person doesn't understand this concept of, I am not living my life only for me and my physical comfort. I'm living my life to make a connection with HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And when a person lives their life, or we are all, right? When we live our lives in order to make a connection with HaKadosh Baruch Hu, then none of the other rules really apply. Everything gets kind of like, it's a whole different frame of reference. And so then he finishes, as it is written in the Zohar, the secret of the matter is the secret above, meaning this pasuk from Mishlei. What is his name and what is his son's name that I should know him? His name is known and it is Hashem Tzvaot. His son's name is Israel, is Yisrael. As it is written, B'ni B'chori Yisrael. My firstborn son is Israel. So let's go back to this pasuk from Mishlei. What does this mean then? It essentially means that the Sfas Emes is bringing it in his piece to say, we are living our lives like the firstborn children of Hashem. And we're living our lives to have the connection that a firstborn child has with their parent, which goes beyond, a business transaction. It goes beyond what I can do for you and what you can do for me. There's a much, much deeper connection there. And when we understand, when we're in that deeper connection, we can be in this place of giving over things to Hashem. Okay, sorry. Rak she'al yidei nedivut ha'adam mitromem ha'nedivut ad Hashem yisparach. Through the volunteering of a person, through this action of giving over something to Hashem, it lifts up the entire thing to be in Hashem's name. Ve'ita truma nitzlat b'machshava. It says in the Mishnah. It's another quote. It says in the Gemara that there's this comparison of like how do you take a truma, right? Because a truma is like the portion of a crop, a portion of animals, right? We have all these different things are amounts that are portions that we bring up to the Beis Hamikdash and we give over to Hashem. How do you estimate? Let's say you have an odd number of animals, or let's say you have a whole field, right? So the Gemara goes into this concept. I'm just going to read it in English, and the Gemara says Just as standard truma is taken by estimate, there is no requirement for the amount separated to be measured precisely, and it can be taken, and this is the key word, by thought, as one is not required to physically separate it before consuming the remaining produce. So too, truma of the type may be taken by estimate and by thought. So what does that mean? I feel like I'm a little bit like all over the place, but let me just explain. He's going into the concept of truma being something that can happen up here in your brain. It doesn't even necessarily, I mean, obviously it, at some point it has to happen physically, right? The people in the Beis Hamikdash times did physically bring a portion of their crops up to the Beis Hamikdash. They did physically bring their, challah and gave it over to the Kohanim. They did physically bring, animals up and to the Beis Hamikdash as per the appropriate amount. But when a person was looking at their field, they didn't have to go and cut the crops in order to consciously separate out that portion already to Hashem. So there were times when the truma was given, let's say, writing like quotation marks, just in thought first. And already when it's given in thought, it's ke'ilu, it's actually being given in physicality. What does this mean for us? So I'm going to stop the share for 1 second. Okay. I think this is really the concept that I wanted to give over. That a person can have the intention that something that they're doing that day, I can have an intention, you can have an intention that when I sit down with my child and help them with their homework, or when I'm making dinner, or, we always use the example of, folding the laundry or, putting the dirty laundry in, right? So it doesn't look necessarily holy. But if I have in my mind this idea that a portion of this activity belongs to Hashem, then the entire activity gets elevated b'shem shamayim or l'shem shamayim. So, cooking or helping someone or reading a book or, going to sleep at night, right? These are all things that might not look holy, but with the intention that we put to them, if we say, I'm doing this, I'm going to sleep now, I'm going to sleep early because that way I can be, nicer to my kids, or, I can, I don't know, learn something more tomorrow. I can be a more generous person. I can be just happier because Hashem wants us to be happy. So then that intention that we're setting, that we're doing it because of this connection that we have with Hashem, that is like a truma. It becomes like a truma. It becomes like a portion of the activity that we're kind of giving over to Hashem. And I just want to just to bring it into like sort of something that we can all relate to. I actually was in yoga yesterday. I was doing yoga, okay, semi-private, shared, whatever, I don't know, with Marianne Tanzer, who's awesome. Shout out, Marianne, if you're listening to this. So this came to me in the middle of class yesterday, and I was already preparing this year. And we were in the middle of doing like an action, a pose, I guess you call it, right? And Marianne said, make this action come from your, upper back rather than from your lower back. And I didn't move at all. And yet somehow the energy shifted, and all of a sudden I felt the stretch like in my upper back and not in my lower back. I felt, maybe I moved a tiny bit, but like, it was really something that I was like, it was like once I tuned my mind into, having the energy come from that part of my body, it like changed the way that I felt in that yoga pose. And it struck me because that's what this feels like to me, right? That all we need to do is shift our mindset a tiny bit and say like, I don't know, let's say I'm folding laundry, right? Okay. So let's say I'm folding laundry and I could be like really, whatever, it's tiring and it's been a long day and I'm folding laundry, it's all over my bed, and I'm sure nobody else does that, but maybe you do. And in order to go to sleep, I have to fold the laundry, right? So there can you can stir up these like really negative feelings, right? But what happens if I have a different intention? What happens if I say like, okay, Hashem, this is where we are now, and I know you gave me this, this task, and it's like either like I could even say like it's one more opportunity to do something for my kids. It's one more opportunity to like give, just before I go to sleep, I get one more chance to give, right? So, not always easy to do, and not always doable at all, right? But maybe it is. Maybe sometimes, maybe one extra time per day, I can change my mindset or shift my intention just a little bit and say, I'm doing this for you, Hashem, so that I can be nicer to your children tomorrow, right? And just that little shift of mindset, right? Or, let's say I'm going to take out the garbage. I don't know. I'm going to eat something a little bit healthier so that my body is a little bit, I don't know, so that I can have a little bit more energy so that I can serve you better, right? If we take a little piece of Hashemness, and insert it into every activity, then it's a truma in terms of it raises up the entire activity. And I'm going to go back to the share screen because I'm going to show you something. He says something absolutely amazing that I think is really, whatever, like it'll help us understand exactly how much of this we have to do. Okay. So he says, okay, machshava v'ratzon tov nitzlat umitromemet ad l'shamayim, right? This thought and a good intention, the will to want to, do good, a good desire, nitelet, or lifts up, right? It lifts up, it separates it, okay? But it's a separation of like lifting up. Umitromemet, again, this language of like separating, but lifting, separating and raising it up to a like a higher purpose, ad l'shamayim, to the heavens. Umitzvah zo noheget b'chol davar liyot bo chelek laHashem yisbarach. And this mitzvah gives us the like a doorway to do this with everything in our lives. This idea of vayikhu truma, of everything, of vacuuming my house and cleaning up, the crumbs that are all over the place for Pesach, I don't know, or putting away the groceries, like every single thing that we do on a daily basis, driving somewhere, picking something up, bringing some, meal to so everything we do, we can think of this. Vayikhu truma. I'm taking a piece of it and I'm giving it to you, Hashem. Why? Vasuli mikdash v'shachanti b'tocham, because that's how you make yourself. That's how we make ourselves into a mikdash ma'at. In everything, hu b'chol ma'aseh ha'adam, and we can do this in every single activity or action that we do in this world. Ve'ita, and now he brings in a Mishnah, and this like expands it in a very interesting direction. Ve'ita ayin tov v'chule ve'ayin ra aleph mi samech. Okay, and I'm not going to read the whole thing, but it's basically this Mishnah down here. I'll read it in English. The amount of truma, how much truma do you have to take? A generous amount is 1/40th. Beis Shammai says 1/30th is a generous amount. The average amount is 1/50th. A stingy amount is 1/60th. Okay, so that's what he's quoting above. Ayin yafa, right, is echad me'arba'im or shloshim or chamish. Okay. And an ayin ra'ah is mishishim. So that's what he quoted up here. He says, right? Okay, ayin tov v'chule, the ayin ra is echad from shishim. So what does he say? Ki kesheyesh mashehu ratzon laHashem yisbarach shelo yiyeh pachot mishishim. Right? What do we know about something one in shishim? Right? Batel b'shishim. Okay, so that's what he's talking about here. He's saying that when we want something to be like, to be the will of Hashem, to like, we want to tap into this concept of that something should be for Hashem's sake. So it shouldn't be less than a 60th. Because then it would be batal to the physical desires, or the what's the word, the superficial, the chitzonim, the outer, right, the superficial desires, not the l'shem shamayim desires. Okay, so it has to be not less than 1/60th. Rak echad mishishim nishmar lahaniach makom lechol alav shem shamayim. It has to be at least one part in 60 in order to raise the whole thing up to, in order to affect, cause this effect to happen, that it should be raised up l'shem shamayim. And through that, if it's great, it's more than 1/60th, then it raises the whole thing up. So let's think about that for 1 second, okay? If you're doing something for an hour, so then, for 1 minute, and it could be like a cumulative minute, so 10 seconds here, 10 seconds there, 5 seconds here, 5 seconds there, right? But if for 1 minute of that 1 hour, you're thinking, Hashem, I'm trying to connect to you through this. Hashem, I'm trying to be a better person through this. Hashem, this is for you. Hashem, this is for, so that your will should be revealed in this world, whatever it is. Or if you're doing something for 1 minute, it needs to be for how long? If you're doing something for 1 minute, 1 second, right? If for 1 second during that thing that you're doing for 1 minute, we can think, right? Hashem, through this, I'm going to connect to you. Then it lifts up the whole activity. The whole action becomes l'shem shamayim. Me'es kol ish asher yidvenu, right? That's the Rashi up here from the, that's from the pasuk up here, right? That it should, every person's heart should move him to do this. Me'ez kol asher ish asher yidvenu chulei, perush mikol minei nedivot v'ritzonot shenimtzaim balev ha'adam yifreshu truma. That through every volunteering or giving and good intention that a person has, that are found in the heart of a person, that person can separate out truma. So I thought that this was, a very mechazik, right? Because many of us, especially in the situation that we're in, right? We're still in Efrat, like very separated from everybody still, it's opening up a little bit more, but still we're like in our own little, bubbles here. And a good way to, come out of that bubble a little bit is to bring, is v'shachanti b'tocham, is to like invite Hashem in. So how do we invite Hashem in? How do we get koach? How do we get, energized from Hashem? By vayikchu truma, by taking a portion and setting it aside, for Hashem. So in everything that we do, we can take, and again, it's b'machshava, right? It doesn't have to be a physical taking out. It's not like I'm going to take this book and rip out a page and be like, this was for you, and throw it up in the air. That's, obviously not what we're doing. But as we, as I open a book to read to my child, or as I, see the dirty dishes in the sink and I'm going to do them again and fill up the dishwasher again, Bezrat Hashem, right? That's all I need to do is say like, Hashem, please help me to have patience and strength to do this, right? I mean, it has to be enough to make it not batal b'shishim, right? But with that intention, then we become more, and we open up more space in ourselves for v'shachanti b'tocham. So I'll give us all a bracha that through these kinds of, everyday little connections, that we should be, we should feel stronger and even if we don't feel stronger, we should just know that it is making us stronger. To keep on, putting one foot in front of the other, to keep on, tomorrow's another day, and Bezrat Hashem, we have many more opportunities to do this, and to be givers, and to be, people who take from what we would have felt is, mine, this is mine. And if we take some of it and give it up to Hashem, then he becomes a partner with us. And it's less lonely, and it's less scarce feeling, and it's more empowering. And I give us all a bracha. Thank you, Chana. We should all feel this. We should all know that that this is the real connection, and this is the real empowerment of Hashem, of what we have access to. So we should all have the schus of vayikhu that we should take in order to become to feel filled with Hashem's strength and brachas. Laila tov. Good night. Thank you.